Hello. I'm George Seedorf. On the radio I say G. Scott Rainey. It's a lot better. I've been using that name for about 12 years. This is a brand new show tonight, Jazz Gallery, with your host G. Scott Rainey. Very excited to be here. I had to race to get here on time. I had to go get my notebook. So I'm a little out of breath, but I do have water, which is my friend. I have been following jazz for a number of years. I wrote down a few things. First, let me say this, and this is because the anniversary today is it's big in American history. Joshua fought the Battle of Jericho, and the walls came a-tumbling down. Now, what does that mean? It means that this is the anniversary of the insurrection. I looked it up, and what does that mean about Joshua? In God we trust is what I say about America. God is stronger than walls. Well, it's not about the walls, it's about the idea. We are a republic if we can keep it. That's all I'm going to say. Now, on to jazz. Existentialism, to me, is something you need to know about if you know about jazz. It is one determines their own existence and meaning in life. And that's what jazz is. It's existence and it's meaning, a meaningful existence. Now here's another term, improvisation. That means you make it up as you go along, and it doesn't have to be the same way more than once. It's fresh every time. Tonality. The jazz people are free with tonality. It's okay to play any note. That's the beauty of it. In the way of my background, one of the reasons that I want to be here is that the jazz that I've been able to experience in my life. When I went to the Village Vanguard in 1973 and saw Thelonious Monk, it was an amazing thing to be able to do. I was 24. I saw Chet Baker at Carnegie Hall. I drove up in my little Toyota and was able to park there. I didn't have a ticket, but the minute I got out of the car, a gentleman comes over and he tells me, I have a free ticket for you. Would you like it? And I said, yes, I would. I saw Albert King at the Brooklyn Academy of Music because I like blues and I like jazz. I was president of the Detroit Blues Society in the 90s, but you know, both of them, it's like the wings on an airplane. You've got one side and you've got the other. That is blues and jazz, that relationship. Next week, I'm going to be able to play some excerpts of music. We're going to play Thelonious Monk's Blue Monk. Very important to me, Blue Monk. If you ever get a chance to see it, there's a documentary on Thelonious Monk called, what is it called? No Chaser. Something about, I should have that written down. It shows him at work. It shows the moves that he had. The thing about Thelonious Monk is that, very interestingly, he's the first musician I know of that likes to play two notes on the piano right together. It's dissonance. And what I say here about Thelonious is that, American jazz pianist and composer Thelonious Monk had a unique improvisational style, and he made numerous contributions to the jazz repertoire. Straight No Chaser is a name of the song, and it's also the name of the documentary. The green light has come. That means something. That means, does it mean I read the station ID? Yes. You are watching Jazz Gallery, live streaming on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter, and other top social media platforms. Like, follow, share, comment, and subscribe. Thank you for watching WJZZ Cool TV, the coolest station in the entire world. Back to Thelonious Monk. Born October 10th, That was, I didn't write down the year of his birth. Typo. He passed away in 1982. I think it was 1917. Yeah, 1917 to 1982. Like I was saying, when you play two notes on the piano right together, whether it's a black note, a black key or a white key, or two white keys, it's dissonant. He created that wonderful, almost childlike dissonance that was sheer genius. So yeah, it was. I would call it sheer genius. Now, what am I going to play next week? Charles Mingus, "Goodbye Pork Pie Hat." An amazing tune. Interestingly, in the mid-70s, Jeff Beck did a version of that when he was in his jazz fusion period. Speaking of jazz fusion, one of the reasons that I feel that it was the right time for me to do a jazz show is that when I was 22, that's when the Strata Concert Gallery was at 2nd and Selden in Detroit. And this was the height of the fusion era. I had a chance to see a lot of amazing artists there, such as, I have it written down here. Well, Weather Report was one. Charles Mingus was another one. Elvin Jones from Pontiac, Michigan. I taught for a while at Pontiac Central High School. That's where that particular jazz great and great drummer, Elvin Jones, that's where he went to school. I think there's a plaque somewhere in the school. Now, another song that I'm going to be playing next week is Horace Silver, Senior Blues. And there's a personal meaning to that, because how is it that I love jazz and blues? Well, here's a jazz song called Senor Blues. Horace Silver. About Horace Silver. Horace Silver. They're all here. They're all here except Horace Silver. Somehow he got lost. Oh, here it is. Okay, number 3. Horace Ward Tavares Silver was a jazz pianist, composer, and arranger, particularly in the hard bop style he helped pioneer in the 1950s. After playing tenor saxophone and piano at school in Connecticut, Horace Silver got his break on piano when he was recruited by Stan Getz in 1950. He was born in 1928, September 2nd. He died 2014, January 18th. I love that Horace Silver tune, Senior Blues. Now, I mentioned Charles Mingus, who I saw with a wonderful, Steve Grossman was his soprano saxophone player. What a night at the concert, at the Strata Concert Gallery. Charles Mingus being an American double bassist of the jazz idiom, who was a proponent of collective improvisation. That was very progressive, continues to be. When you have more than one cat improvising at the same time, you've got a lot of energy in the whole. You're watching Jazz Gallery live streaming on Facebook, YouTube, Switch, Twitter, and other top social media platforms like follow, share, comment, and subscribe. Thank you for watching WJZZ Cool, the coolest station in the entire world. Charles Mingus, born 1922, died 1979. Horace Silver next week. Also, Ornette Coleman. I remember walking around town with Ornette Coleman. He was in town for the Strata concert event that he was playing. Interesting man, Ornette Coleman. The New Thing was his thing. He was also doing collective improvisation. Randolph Denard Ornette Coleman was an American jazz saxophonist, violinist, trumpeter, and composer, known as the principal founder of the free jazz genre, also known as the New Thing in the 60s, a term derived from his 1960 album Free Jazz, a collective improvisation. Born March 9th, 1930, died June 11th, 2015. He had a wonderful tailor. His costuming was right on, what can I say? Charlie Parker and Dizzy Gillespie together doing Night in Tunisia is something I'll be able to play next week. Looking forward to it. Charlie Parker, also known as Bird, also known as Yardbird. Now, for those who don't know, a bird that can't fly, that hangs around in the yard, is a yardbird. It's a chicken. Now, how he got that name, I don't know. I think it had to do of traveling around the country. Chicken makes a very nice meal. You're watching Jazz Gallery live, streaming on Facebook, YouTube, Switch, Twitter, and other top social media platforms. Like, follow, share, comment, and subscribe. Thank you for watching WJZZ Cool, the coolest TV station in the world. Charlie Parker. I would say that, in fact, I came up with this earlier today. Modern music fans, this is what I would say of Charlie Parker. What Jimi Hendrix was to electric guitar, that's what Charlie Parker was to the saxophone. The bebop era. He lived a tumultuous life, and that's all I'll say about that. Charlie Parker. The energy level is like no other. That's why I'll be looking forward to Night in Tunisia with Dizzy Gillespie and Charlie Parker performing. Sonny Rollins. Sonny Rollins. My favorite album that I have from the 60s is an album, it's a tune. The title tune is 37 minutes long. It's called East Broadway Rundown. It was a 1966 release. It is, it's one of the best moments of Sonny Rollins in the studio. He was somewhat unsure of it at the time. He was not necessarily happy with what he was laying down at the time. It was edgy. It was phenomenal. We'll do an excerpt of it next week. Walter Theodore Sonny Rollins is an American jazz tenor saxophone player who is widely recognized as one of the most important and influential jazz musicians in his 7-decade career. He's recorded over 60 albums. Born September 7th, 1930, of my 8 jazz musicians that I'm talking about today, he's the only one that's still alive and still playing. I remember hearing about Sonny Rollins the very first time. It was what he used to do in the middle of the night, practicing his saxophone. He would go off in the middle of the Brooklyn Bridge, and he did not bother his neighbors, although I would want to be one of his neighbors if I had an opportunity to be. But it was, it created some good press at the time, going out on the Brooklyn Bridge. When I lived in New York City, I loved the Brooklyn Bridge. It is Flatbush Avenue, you get on the Brooklyn Bridge, and suddenly you're on Canal Street. And if you keep going, you go to the Holland Tunnel. Next thing you know, you're in New Jersey. Who else can I talk about here? Elvin Jones, I mentioned. Miles Davis, we haven't talked about yet. The Miles Davis song I'm looking forward to playing next week when I have the technical apparatus worked out is one of the truly great tunes. When Roger comes in, he'll be able to remind you what the name of it is. It is Miles Davis. I can almost hum it. Do 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 do. I'm hearing it, but I'm not sure that you are, ladies and gentlemen. I saw Muddy Waters at the Chessmate Club in 1968. It was fantastic. We have, should I read this again?
No, you're good.
Okay, Tasha is here
Hi,
to join me. And you know Tasha is one of the great Detroit blues performers who loves jazz just as much.
Absolutely. Hi, everybody.
Tell me, Tasha, what are your activities now?
Oh, my
It's
goodness.
January, it's a brand new year. What are you looking at?
It's a brand new year. I'm sorry, you guys. This right now is the planning time for me, and I probably should have done that months ago. But when you're doing it yourself, you gotta put everything in when you fit it in.
That's right. Well, not everybody can do what you're able to do.
Oh, well, I don't know about that. I mean,
fantastic on
I
stage,
appreciate the accolades, that's for sure. I just
behind the scenes.
continue moving, and I think that's one of the keys. To just keep moving and keep going. Yeah. And whatever works, whatever doesn't, then you know where to go from there.
Are you still doing that jam?
No, but it was with the jam he's talking about. I did host a wonderful open jam. It was for 5 years. It was at a club called Pub Froggy. Right. The club has since been sold, and now it's called the World's End Craft Burger Bar. So yeah, great new owners and everything, but it's a different concept than that. So but that was a really great jam. We attracted musicians from all over the world. Soon when they come to Detroit, for some reason, without anything I knew about, when they come, they look up jams, and they ended up coming there. So, of course, on Detroit Legends, it was just a wonderful jam, a wonderful way for a lot of our blues, funk, jazz, and soul musicians to get to know each other. So, grateful for that.
Band,
the Stable Dudes.
Right, the Stable Dudes.
I still play with them, yes.
Brett Lucas, I've known since he was 18.
Right. Now, Brett's not a stable dude, but Brett, that's a whole different, that's the part of my album. Brett, he was the producer and co-writer for my album, my first album called The Wrong Side of Right. Oh my God, what is this? Oh my God, it's a copy of it.
Look at that.
So it is out there. It's on all your digital outlets, and when you see me live, I'll have, physical copies, because a lot of people want a momentum. Mm-hmm. And something we can sign in that with the actual recordings on it, whether they have a device for it or not, it's something great to have for your collection. So if you do see artists selling CDs, go ahead and buy them, because they can sign that. They can't sign your digital.
So it's a CD, or is it digital?
It is a CD. Yeah, so it is a CD.
It's not MP3.
Yeah,
you can actually buy a piece of plastic with your
but
on
it's all MP3. Everything that with your digital outlets, that's how it usually comes through to the systems that you listen to. Unless there's something new, because every day something new happens.
Well, I know that I'm going to be 73 next month.
All right.
Believe me.
Good job.
I can tell you that everything is changing constantly.
Absolutely.
Sometimes
and
I wish
faster
I could go back
than we
to
ever thought. That's the thing.
Sometimes I wish I could go back to the 50s before fax machines.
I wish I could just go there for like a week. Oh my God. I want to be like Mrs. Stevens from Bewitched or something like that. The neighborhood looked amazing. But yeah, I wish I could go there even for the music. So yeah.
Okay. This is something we need to let you know about.
No, I think we already did that. We got a couple more minutes for that.
Okay.
So.
Okay. So let's
So what you been talking about? I just busted in on everything. What have you been talking about?
What I was talking about was what I'd originally planned for this evening was these wonderful 8 jazz artists.
Okay.
Now I've talked about each one, but there's nothing like hearing what they have to play. Now between now and next week, you are free, ladies and gentlemen, to go and get Charlie Parker and Dizzy Gillespie playing Night in Tunisia. Sonny Rollins' East Broadway Rundown. Horace Silver, Senor Blues.
All right.
Ornette Coleman, Free Jazz, a collective improvisation. Charles Mingus, Goodbye, Pork Pie Hat, and Blue Monk, Thelonious Monk. There was
I love it with the notes. This is great.
Yeah.
This is someone who prepares and knows what they want to talk about. This is wonderful.
I lost my Miles Davis.
He has such a plethora of education from the history of Detroit music and jazz music and blues music. So George is a great friend of mine, y'all, and you're going to enjoy this show. I encourage you to continue watching. I love this part. I got to put it out there. So yes, let's get into your brain. I know your brain is so much information. Let's just go and get lost.
I lost my little card that said Miles Davis on it. Mm-hmm. So I can't remember the tune, which is do 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 do. Now Roger will tell us when he gets there what it's called.
Absolutely.
But my little story is I go into the bottom line. It's the mid-'70s. Mm-hmm. I'm very excited to see Miles Davis.
Oh my.
Now this was when he had gone past the fusion door that he went into. He's got 3 electric guitarists, rock guys, playing with him. Now,
can you name them?
The first set, he had his back to the audience, and he only blew his trumpet maybe. The rest of the time, he's letting the rock guys go. Now, I should have gone to the second set because he played his heart out in the second set.
Wow.
It turned out. Now, he loved the electric guitar of rock. Mm-hmm. I think one of the things is that he was saying, quite frankly, these rock guys are filling stadiums. Now, why don't we jazz people get some of that?
Right.
And certainly, personally, I mean, go to Europe and mention jazz, mention Miles, mention any of these people I said.
Oh, yes.
And they will tell you that they should be filling stadiums.
Absolutely.
Now, the rock people got into the arena rock. Jazz is too intimate for that. I like it at the Village Vanguard. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah. Well, and that was the wind down. The part that made you think, oh, this is why I do music, man, because it makes me feel this way. Yeah. So I call it that. So after the rock show, you want to go to the after party where there's jazz being played.
That's right.
Because it's your total wind down and you see that entire musical experience and that fulfillment. That's just me personal as an artist.
Well, I'll admit it. This is a jazz show, but I will admit I like blues rock.
Well, hey, it's all interconnected.
Yeah,
it is all interconnected. So
it is. Let's see. Where's my cell phone? I had an interesting little. That's yours.
Right.
I don't know what I did with mine. Well, it's somewhere. We'll turn it. I had this thing that I wrote that when I knew I was going to have this show, and I said that rock. See if I can remember the quote. Rock and roll is the stepson of jazz.
Yes.
Blues is the blood brother.
Yes.
Of jazz.
I was going to say it had to be that bloodline.
I'd say that hip hop and related forms is the son, no, the stepson. The stepson of jazz. Let's say that. And
I wouldn't say stepson. I would say second, third generation. Because as we evolve, as generations grow, we evolve. So our roots all come from the same place. Is what you're trying to get at.
I don't know. I mean, I'm sure most of the listeners know this, but the same Afro-Cuban rhythms that are found in jazz are also found in hip hop.
Absolutely.
And the two musics go rather well together.
Absolutely. I'd
almost say that hip hop is a form of jazz. Would you say?
It depends on originally I would say yes, when it first came out now, but people are exploring with different things. I'm not a hip hop connoisseur, so please do not say this is not an end quote kind of thing, but in some instances when they use the music behind what they're doing and what they're saying, they stick with the rhythm, and that's what the whole premise of the music was to put down a rhythm that you can move to, a rhythm you can vibe to, a rhythm that moves you from toe to head. You know what I'm saying?
It's a rhythm.
So this is where the music comes from. When you hear the music behind the rap, and then you hear what they're saying, then you can relate both too. Because just like even in your movies with your classical music, the music goes towards what's going on stage. So if those two can relate and marry, and you can get it here, then it's a great song. If not, it's just making noise.
The thing that's interesting about hip hop and rap is the rhythm, putting the words in.
Right.
It's a real art form. Now my students, when I was teaching English in Pontiac Central, because I had done a lot of spoken word poetry in my late 20s,
awesome.
where one of my lines was, "Is poetry stand-up comedy, Well, I would say that
It
my
could be.
poetry was.
Yes, my songs are.
Yeah.
They're musical comedy.
So I told the kids about this,
Mm-hmm.
and they said, Mr. Seedorf, that's my real name, not G. Scott Rainey, but I love G. Scott Rainey on the radio.
That sounds great.
So they said, Mr. Seedorf, would you do some rap for us? And so I said, well, the only difference between my spoken word and rap is that rap has end rhymes.
Right.
And so I went home that night, and I started writing some hip-hop rap. I came back the next day, and I did it. They put it on the internet.
Nice.
Yeah, and they wondered why I did all the gestures. Well, you can't do that without
you
the
can't.
hand gestures. You have to. And they were just tripping away. They loved it.
Oh,
they
I
loved
love
that
it.
I could do that.
Like, this is Eminem's grandfather up here.
Yeah, that's right.
I love it.
That's right. We old people, it's like they're my grandkids, right? Yeah.
We still groovy and cool. We used to be.
Well,
Right.
I looked at myself in the mirror the other day and I said, my God, that's an old man I'm looking at. So what are you going to do? I'm still alive and well.
Amen.
That's all that matters.
That's right. That's right. We come through a lot, and we're still here to tell the story, which is really important.
The good part is I can go back 50 years and talk about being at the Strata Concert Gallery.
Wow.
When I was 22.
Okay, and who'd you see there?
Yeah. So I've lived long enough to make this stuff historic.
Absolutely.
And
Tell
it's
your
beautiful.
story.
It's beautiful. Beautiful. I remember I first got into jazz, and blues, let's say, in the mid-'60s.
Right.
By way, I'm sure you're not too surprised to hear this, by way of Cream.
Oh, wow.
Eric Clapton.
Yes,
Because
absolutely. I'm like,
the,
I wasn't ready to hear that. I'm like,
well,
yes. Amen.
The British blues guys brought blues to white America, which is interesting because this was a black music. The Limeys, bless their heart, they recognized the beauty of it. They bring it back.
And they still
the
do.
British invasion, and blues became it became more popular than it ever had been.
Right.
Blues rock came into being. And there's another little tidbit. I'm going around in circles, but rock and roll was from the early 50s until 1969, 1970. That's when rock came into being. Rock and roll were nice, tidy little songs that were about 2.5 minutes.
Right.
And then rock came along, and these songs, suddenly they were 11 minutes, 15 minutes long.
Yes, thank you, Hendrix.
Yeah. Well, Hendrix is in a class by himself. I said
Absolutely.
earlier, what Hendrix was to the electric guitar, Charlie Parker was to the tenor sax.
Yes, I agree with that.
Tonality, we don't need that anymore. We can play any note we want. I remember when I first heard the Jimi Hendrix Experience when the album was brand new and out, the year I graduated from high school, 1967. We were all blown away by Hendrix.
Right.
And this many years later, nothing has changed.
Nothing has changed. You're still blown away.
Jimmy Mccarty,
our own Jim Mccarty.
Detroit electric guitarist who was with Cactus.
Rock and blues legend.
Mitch Ryder and the Detroit Wheels.
Yep.
Detroit Blues Band. His current project, which you see all around, is Mystery Train.
Mystery Train, yes.
And he was also with Buddy Miles and Jimi Hendrix in the late 60s over there at the...
and you can actually find a video if you go on YouTube and look up the Jimmy Jam. Yeah. You won't see very much, but you'll hear Jim McCarty and Jimi Hendrix playing. And I have a story behind that. Jim McCarty is a person responsible for me singing blues today.
Is he really?
Yes, he is. Yes, he is. He was hosting a jam with his wonderful charitable heart. He's a man, legend that he is. He decides to, at a local bar on the east side, host a jam for the homeless. And you could donate items of clothing or food or anything every Sunday. And a friend of mine, Al Grovovic, he's also a great guitar player, and he said, "Well, come and see Jimmy, do his jam. It's an open jam." And I was just getting into being in different bands. I was in the same band for 10 plus years, so I was getting to know everybody else. So I says, I go to this jam. And Jimi Hendrix, Jimmy McCarty is on stage in that, and my friend goes, "Hey, I told him about you. I told him you were coming." And so he comes up to me and says, "Hey, come on up and jam." And I go, "Jimmy, I don't know any blues. I was a rock singer. I did rock for 15 years. I'm like, I don't know anything about the blues." And he looks at me and he goes, "Listen, I'm going to play and you're going to sing. And then my friend that brought me up there says, "You don't tell Jim McCarty no." So I was just out of fear. I got right on the stage and he started playing, some 12-bar thing. And I said, I got to do like this. So I got the rhythm and I just started making up something. I called it the 313 Blues, and it was crazy. And from that moment, I fell in love with singing the blues, and I've been doing it ever since. So there is my story.
To be introduced to the blues by way of Jimmy McCarty
is a blessing.
It's truly a blessing. And one of the things I tell people about Jim McCarty, whether they're aware of it or not, I'll tell them.
Right.
I'll say, I'm not going to try to be abrasive, but I'll, tell them a few things that I've discovered over the years.
Right.
And I go see Jimmy McCarty whenever I can. And the pandemic has been a bit of a heartbreak because I always saw him at least once a week. Mm-hmm. And now Jimmy is great because he never plays it the same way twice.
Right.
It's fresh.
Absolutely.
Anytime you see McCarty, he's going to play something he's never ever played before, and will probably never play again.
Right.
Because he's an improvisationist in the middle of all. He also walks away from tonality anytime he wants to.
Absolutely.
He'll play. He's in one key. He can be in 4 keys at the same time because he's that good.
And he'd blow your mind doing it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he is.
And plus 70 years old, his last album, he played every instrument, everything, recorded it from home, and then just took it to have it mixed and mastered. He did everything on that album. So,
What's the name of that one?
I forget the name of it because it just came to my mind. It is in my car because I always listen to it. But yeah, look up at Jim McCarty on all your digital outlets and that. But yes, the last album he did, I think, released right before the pandemic. Mm-hmm. And it's an amazing album. I absolutely love it. And he did everything at home. And
Next
then
week
went
we'll
to
have
the
the names of those albums.
So yeah,
because we want you to buy
genius.
them. You're not going to be sorry.
Right, absolutely.
$20 is all it takes.
Yep.
And I know that the one that I can't think of the name of right now is something about dreaming, I think. Anyway, I told Jimmy that I played it every day I drove my car.
Wow.
Every day for a year and a half.
Wow.
That's all I listened to for a year and a half.
Isn't it something?
Yeah, he's amazing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
He's a modest guy, too.
Absolutely. Now, what's the name of the show we have? The Jazz Gallery today?
This is Jazz Gallery.
Yes.
It is. Do we do this again?
Yes.
Okay. Jazz Gallery. You are watching Jazz Gallery live streaming on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch. I'd never heard of Twitch before. And Twitter. And other top social media platforms like follow, share, comment, and subscribe. Thank you for watching WJZZ Cool TV at its coolest. In fact, the coolest station in the entire world.
There you go, you guys. You guys know I have a show on this station too, and we want to welcome George to the family too. So I got to break him in. This is what we do.
To be here.
Absolutely, because we're proud of that.
We will refine over the coming weeks. Mm-hmm. But it's sort of like I said, throw me in the pool, I will learn how to swim.
Absolutely.
And this is my 5th radio show I've had. I've been doing radio since the early 80s.
Wonderful.
My first show was Art in Detroit. Mm-hmm. It was about art, visual art.
Okay.
Now I said through words, I'm a double English major. Through words, we can make visual art come alive.
Amen.
On the radio.
Mm-hmm.
And then my next one was City Arts and Sounds, which was playing music and talking, occasionally interview somebody. Mike Whitty, Dr. Detroit, gave me that show.
Oh, I know Dr. Detroit.
He said, I'm doing this show. I would like to give it to you. Mm-hmm. And I said, Mike, I will accept it. And that was a fun one. And I had Mike Bolan toward the end.
All right, yes.
Because I had a job at that hour. So I brought Mike Bolan in, No Cover Records, and we would, this goes back a while, it was the late 90s, we would put the show on cassettes in his basement.
Hey, I still have cassettes.
Yeah.
Don't tell anybody.
Well, I'm going to give myself a birthday present. My birthday is next February 23rd.
Oh,
I'll be 73.
Pre-birthday.
I'm going to get myself this wonderful Victrola 9-in-1.
Oh my gosh.
It's got record player. Mm-hmm. It's got CD. It's got DVD. Well, it doesn't have DVD. Yeah, well, no, it doesn't have DVD. It doesn't have a screen. It has everything else.
Does it have 8-track and a cassette? That's what you want. You want the all-inclusive. Oh, so it's a remanufactured new concept with a Victrola.
Very nice. You can put an LP on there, and you can turn it into MP3.
Nice.
Or you can put it on a disc. It's got it all.
Well, when you get it in, you got to bring in the model number and tell us about it, because I'm pretty sure I want one.
You're gonna like it. It's only $139.
Oh my
Amazon.
gosh! Look at that.
Yeah,
Look, Amazon is the best, isn't it?
It comes in various wood colors. I'm gonna get it in black.
Oh, there you go.
Black matches my furniture.
All right now.
Yeah, basic black.
Right.
They say that orange is the new black.
Right.
And they also say that 60 is the new 40.
Okay.
And so I'm saying 70 is the new 50.
Well, hey, own it.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Own it.
Yeah. I can get into it. Well, the thing is, what I discover is as the decades go by, life gets better and better.
Right.
The experience gives you an opportunity to feel more comfortable.
Yeah.
After a while, you get so happy you don't even knock on wood. You're so happy.
Well, we need you to talk more about that. Look how positive you are. Look at what you're generating out into the public. This is great.
Well, I forgot to say 12 years on the Rock and Roll Lawyer Show.
Right.
That's when I became G. Scott Rainey.
Right.
I did voices also. Now, I can't say the characters that I did on the show because people think those characters are real people. I will say that one of them was an Englishman, old school BBC, who gives the news.
Nice.
Okay, now Sheldon's not around. I'm going to do it.
He might be watching.
This particular person is William Howard Morris Sebastian Thigpen III. You can call me Thicky. He delivers the news, and you know how we need not to offend people. I was just reading the news. One of the people that would come to the show every week was a bit on the right side of the equation. And he felt that the regular mainstream news was too far to the left. So after a while, Thiggy started doing other things rather than the news.
Using
say
the
that
platform
we all
for his
need
own
to
political issues.
We all need to be tolerant of each other.
Right.
America should not be at war with itself.
We haven't learned anything since the Civil War. Not one thing.
Everybody should feel okay to have an opinion, but that doesn't mean you want to destroy the other person.
Absolutely.
It doesn't mean you bring arms to the classroom.
Well, that increases the economy, but we won't go there. We won't go there right now.
Well, I noticed first up, I said, this is the 1-year anniversary of the insurrection, and let me just say that America isn't perfect, but it's a good thing, and we want to keep our democracy going. Yeah. And I speak for America. I don't think that's political to say, let's keep the democracy going.
Right. So how did that? So again, but then like you see, you're starting with the democracy and the politics. That also had an impact on jazz in the '60s, right?
Well, it did.
So let's just marry that right now.
It is.
So how did those change?
Progressive people.
Right.
They
went to Europe.
Justice, economic justice.
Yeah.
And why wouldn't they?
Yeah.
Isn't that the right thing?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So that's a good trail segue into that too.
And
it is also like the blues and rock and roll, a sort of a protest against what's going on. So that's a great way to talk about that. So
there was persecution toward people like Lenny Bruce, the wonderful comic who got into topical issues and was jailed repeatedly over it.
Right.
Jazz people were persecuted. Miles Davis was persecuted.
Yes, absolutely.
We're America. We're not perfect. We're trying to get there.
Right.
And let's keep on trying to get there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And if we can do it through music, that's going to be great.
Music
if we can make a big impact, and I think we normally do.
Together,
Absolutely.
You can have people
like Stevie Wonder said, it's the language we all understand.
It is, and I love Stevie Wonder.
Absolutely.
I was walking into Barney's of 43rd Street in New York City, the wonderful music store that people, musicians, and they're drawn to New York all the time, of course. I'm walking in, guess who's walking out? Stevie Wonder and his entourage.
Wow.
It's 1974. I was a little more shy than I am now back then. I said, I wonder if I could say to Stevie, do you know where Woodward Avenue is? I'm kind of lost here. I thought about saying that, and I said, no, he doesn't want to hear that from this guy. You know what? I bet he would have gotten a charge out of it.
Yeah,
Don't
probably.
You think so?
I think so.
Well, it was thrilling. It was not long after he had that horrible traffic accident. I don't know if you remember that. It was on a tour in a car, the car flipping. we weren't sure but what we might be losing him at that time.
Mm-hmm.
It was touch and go for a while. He was
Right.
a good 4 days. He was in the hospital. They weren't sure what would happen, but he made it through that, and he's alive and well today.
Absolutely. Yep. Amen.
Did you know that the studio at Motown had dirt floors?
Yes.
In the basement?
Yes, I do know that.
The best acoustics you could ever have.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to go into my basement. I'm going to get rid of that concrete, and I'm going to have my friends over to jam.
Can I come over with a sledgehammer? Because I like to I like to break things. So that would be
that's
awesome.
good. Get your frustrations out when you have a.
And then I'll come down and record.
Yeah, you're welcome. You'll be the first person there. Now I need maybe Mike Boland can bring some equipment.
Oh, Mike would totally do that.
Yeah. At No Cover Records, a past president of the Detroit Blues Society, as am I, and as is Steve, who occupies the chair when you first walk in here at Rolston. And life is good.
Right. And then again, like I said, we all live in under the same happy umbrella of WJZZ, and that's how that all ties in together. We're all
JZZ has such a pedigree.
Right.
When you mention JZZ in if you're in Germany or England, people know about WJZZ.
Mm-hmm. All over the world. It's the oldest jazz station in the world. So yes.
And now that we're streaming worldwide, our friends in Europe can be more involved than ever.
More involved, absolutely, because we got the best musicians here. We got the best historians here to tell us those stories about it, about WJZZ and about jazz, and how Detroit jazz even affects the world. So, yeah,
well,
we have the platform. We're happy for that, aren't we?
Detroit jazz should never be underrated. If you go to New York, which is the headquarters for jazz, I think everybody would say, the New York guys are intimidated by the Detroit
and
jazz
they should be.
because half of them are us.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I love New York City. I love the Big Apple. I loved living there for 2 years. And once you've lived in New York, you're never the same. It's a beautiful place.
Once you go to New York, you're never the same. I was there for a week and I came back completely different.
Yeah. When I first got back home to Michigan, I said, one day in New York is like 30 days here because it's so impactful.
It's so impactful.
Yeah.
And so expensive.
Everywhere you look, you've seen.
Bring their prices down. Y'all got enough people there to bring their prices down and still make a profit. They are ridiculously high. Okay, that's just me on a rant.
You know, Ralph Armstrong was telling me about that. That he's found a nice street in Detroit with these beautiful homes that were done around the turn of the century or so. Arden. It's on Arden.
Yep.
And he said, I kind of like living in Detroit. I don't like spending $79 for an egg and a piece of toast.
Right. Amen.
And well, if you've got that kind of money, great. If you've got $4 or $5 million for an apartment or more.
Well, yeah, they got that billionaire road there. It's like whoa.
It's a very expensive place to live. I love New York, but it's gotten a little too gentrified for my pocketbook.
Right. Absolutely.
So Detroit.
On our way.
It's a great place.
Some areas are on our way to there, no doubt. I mean, I do see the necessity behind it, but yeah.
And also, with climate change and everything, we're fairly safe here.
Absolutely.
We're about 1,000 feet above sea level here,
right.
I think.
Right.
And, well, this is a safe place. We don't have fires. We don't have landslides.
Right.
We don't have hurricanes.
And everything's being rebuilt now. So even in the on the backside of that, with everything being rebuilt, I mean, I think this is the time that we should start lobbying to get more jazz clubs, more blues clubs, more entertainment locally, not by like they brought these other bars in, Tin Roof or whatever, which is a national kind of entertainment, small kind of bar, but out of Nashville and stuff. So the city's promoting these things when we should be doing it from within. So that's just my personal opinion on music politics and the gentrification of Detroit.
Well, if you're going to have gentrification, please, can't we have some jazz clubs?
Can we have a piece of it? Leave some of our culture here, and that is my point.
It is.
But let them know who we are. And what I'm gonna do, I got a show coming up here right in about 20 minutes or so, and it's called Hot Flash Happy Hour. So I'm gonna let you finish out your show. Welcome, George, to the family.
Well, thank you so much.
I appreciate you.
You said welcome to the family.
The
about
family.
A week ago, it meant everything to me.
Yes. So yes, let us know how George did on his first show, and then as you see, we're going to be kicking his brain and open it wide open because he's got so much information about music and about what happens here, what has happened through here, through the trends and the changes and things that have gone through with Detroit as well. So you guys want to always tune in.
Tell us about your
My show is called Hot Flash Happy Hour. It's up next at 7:00. And you know me, I've been here for a while. So my show, we talk about music, mostly blues and that, and friends that I have to come on board sometimes to talk about it. And it's the new year, so I'm going to be doing the show solo, and I may bring in a friend to say hello and introduce you to someone new. And then also, talking about what's going on for 2022 at the beginning and what we see happening in the future in Detroit, just from our perspective and from what I'm involved in. But so stay tuned, and I'll see you guys in a minute. I got to get ready to see you.
Thanks, Tasha.
Thanks you so much, George.
You are watching Jazz Gallery, live streaming on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, and other top social media platforms like follow, share, comment, and subscribe. Thank you for watching WJZZ Cool. TV at its coolest, the coolest station in the entire world. And you can watch it anywhere in the entire world. So we've been talking about jazz, we've been talking about blues. The two are married. But as Steve was saying out here, a former Blues Society president, and he was saying, and I agree totally, that blues is often for the emotions, and jazz is for the cerebral part of our lives. Together, we're covered. Thelonious Monk, Charles Mingus, Horace Silver, Miles Davis, Elvin Jones from Pontiac, Michigan, Sonny Rollins, who's still alive and well, Ornette Coleman, The New Thing, Charlie Parker, the Jimi Hendrix of the saxophone, tenor saxophone. Now Roger said he'd stop by. We're looking for Roger right now. He was going to come in because Roger has as you would expect, the owner of WJZZ has an extraordinary knowledge of jazz. And I was hoping that he would drop by just about now so that we could discuss these artists in greater detail. But in the weeks ahead, 2 weeks from today, I'm going to have Dave McMurray in here. Dave McMurray is one of the great tenor saxophone players, extraordinary. A nice guy. Here he is. Roger is here to join us. Yeah, and I promised the audience that we would kick around these jazz artists and you would bring to the table your very impressive knowledge of these artists. What can you tell me about Miles Davis that the listeners will want to hear?
Wow. You picked a rough guy. So first I have to do the disclaimer.
Okay.
Right? That I don't fancy myself as a historian. I'm more of a fan.
Okay.
So I like what I like, and my interest in the depth of my opinion goes to what I actually like versus a critic is kind of up on everything. And so I just wanted to give that disclaimer.
What's the song that I am very fond of, Miles Davis? I couldn't think the name of it.
So What?
So What?
That's one.
Yeah.
It's hard. Like when somebody asks me what my favorite jazz cut is, that's hard because it depends on what mood I'm in, really, So, but So What is one of my favorite. Like if I had to have a top 10 list, which would be hard to narrow down 10 favorite songs, but So What would go on that.
That's cool jazz.
Yeah, I think everything Miles did was cool. That's
truly.
Yeah, that's my first thing.
That was the acoustic Miles.
Yeah.
And later on, he joined with the fusion, and always an experimenter. Never happy to stay the same.
Right. And that's, to me, that's a cool. I don't want to be the same.
No.
I mean, I guess who I am at my core never changes, but I have ideas, and as my life blossoms, I have different tastes. I have things, ambitions and things like that. But So What, I think, was one of the coolest songs ever, and it's kind of minimalistic, and it's so simple, it's complex. If that's kind of oxymoronic, but
it's profound. It's not a complicated tune.
And that little bass riff is what, like, for me, that's what kind of grabs you and just holds you for the entirety of what is like just under 10 minutes. And then when I first got hip to it, I kept trying to turn the volume up because I wanted to hear more of the bass. But it's always in the pocket subtle because you have to really listen because it's that yeah, it's he never like breaks out. He just stays in the pocket with that you know, it's just enough. It's not too much. It's just that's it. And
if you were looking for a perfect song, it just might be So What.
Yeah, and even the title, like that's you could. Who knows what Miles was ever thinking, right? But So What is a polite way of saying fuck it. You know?
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So it's a stress reliever. It's like, okay, I got more important stuff to think about and worry about and care about in life than whatever little Mickey Mouse issue for this moment. You know, it's just you could I think that's what all music that's what I appreciate the most about jazz music. I love every kind of music just about. I love artistry. I like even if I don't like a particular song or a genre or something, I like the fact that artists, true artists, have that individuality about themselves, and they have a so what attitude when it comes to their art. And even if everybody else thinks it's crappy, it's an expression of who they are, or what they felt, or whatever. So that validates it in itself. And true artists like fly. True artists are free. I say that in the sense that I was born into an artistic family. My parents were in the music business, and they were creators. That's what they call them now, creatives. But back then they were writer producers, and they did a lot of stuff that was artistic even out the studio. And we had a jazz club. But so I appreciate real artists. A lot of people try to pawn themselves off as artists commercially, and they make statements like my art and all that, and it's, to me, my opinion, it's garbage. And I think that's the fine line in the art world. Like, you can't be so PC that you are afraid to say that's garbage. That's noise. That's not music. That's noise. That's not poetry. That's just you running off at the mouth. You know what I'm saying? I don't fancy myself a poet. I know the fundamentals of poetry. I can structure a sentence. I can express my feelings, especially romantically or erotically, or I can share parts of my life or my opinion, and it could be constructed and construed as poetry, but I don't fancy myself a poet. I think you have to be somewhat of an orator, a storyteller. You have to be somewhat of an actor. You know, it's a lot of things to me that constitute you as a bona fide poet. But anyway, we only have a couple minutes, so I'm sorry for being late in here.
I wanted to hear what you had to say about Charlie Parker and Ornette Coleman and Sonny Rollins and Elvin Jones. And
okay, so we're gonna wrap it. We might have to come back for part two. So so I'll wrap it up. What everybody knows, Bird, class by himself, changed the game, which we know is bebop. He had some help from Diz and a few others, but he was the anchor. He was the driving force of the bebop music. You know, he broke down a lot of racial barriers. He had a white woman. he was overseas as a black man. He had his issues with the addictions and all this stuff, but he still cranked out genius music, and he's an innovator in jazz along with Miles. Those guys cut from a different cloth, and they are leaders. Everybody else follows what they do. So that's on Bird, and then Elvin Jones. Probably one of the best, if not the best, drummers ever. I think, was he from Detroit?
Yes, Pontiac, Michigan.
Yeah, okay, Pontiac. Saying we're gonna claim him as a Detroiter.
Yeah.
And then Train. Did you say Train? Or no? You said Coleman. You said Ornette Coleman.
Ornette Coleman.
Yeah, well, it was again.
Yeah.
Ornette was kind of like an innovator in the sense that he kind of broke to do some improv type jazz and did some stuff that was off the wall. Back in his day, they thought it was off the wall.
Mm-hmm.
And
the new thing.
Yeah.
Multiple improvisation.
And I guess probably from in my humble opinion about Mingus, I think he's the father of minimalistic jazz. Like he never got loud. You know what I'm saying? He was just kind of laid back kind of dude as far as his music. I heard from people who actually knew him, like Hakeem Jami, and that he was a hell of a, he had a temper, and he was a dude that'll go off on you, and especially if you couldn't play, things like that. But I'm looking at the clock.
Yeah,
the producer and me looks at the clock. But anyway, so we're a little overdue. So I guess we gotta say goodbye. I'll come back though, man. Okay. I apologize for being late, and thanks for doing the show.
Thank you. Roger is the owner of WJZZ, and he's a very fine man.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm glad a few people think so. But so everybody. It's my fault, but I'm glad you're watching. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being supportive. We went a little over, but this is George's first night here on the team. So we're going to do a little courtesy and bless him with a few extra minutes. But Jazz Gallery is going to be a bona fide jazz show. And it's going to start having all kind of jazz greats and jazz guests, everything from aspiring unknown, unsung heroes in jazz, and all the way to the living masters, and everybody won't be local in the studio. So through the power and magic of technology, you're going to be surprised to see and hear some of the guests and get to know some of the guests from the jazz world around the world. And so please follow and subscribe and just be supportive. We're going to be having the different little things to be interactive with you guys, the audience. Send your suggestions, your comments, and I'm kind of closing out George's show for G. Rainey, my man G. Rainey. But we got a lot of surprises, man. So I just want to publicly thank you for being on our team.
Thank you.
And help taking us a step. We try to get better every way we can. So I got to shut up now before the engineer follows the rules and cuts us off. So I guess we can say goodbye. We took an extra 5 minutes.
Come on back next week, folks.
All right, everybody, we'll see you back for Jazz Gallery, and support all the shows. Like, follow, share, subscribe, tell all your friends. If you want to be a guest, send us some emails, whatever. See you later. Bye. I guess there we go.